topic. So let me just take a brief moment to introduce the speaker as well as the initiatives that we have been taking over the last few months. Thing is that today's is the 93rd webinar that we are having, and we have Dr. G. Mallikarjun Rao, who has logged in uh, from Indian Concrete Institute, Hyderabad, and we are very happy to have you. Just a few initiatives, all of you know about Ramco Cements. We are one of the largest producer of cement in the country, and we have a total capacity of 16.5 million ton, which is expected to increase to around 20 million tons with the expansion that we are having. One of the major expansion project that is coming up is in Kurnool. And apart from that, we make ready-mix concrete and dry mortar products, and we operate one of the largest wind farms in the country. So we have this, and as all of you know, Ramco Systems is also well known in the country as well as globally. So we have a combination of all this thing, whether you talk about cement, whether you talk about Ramco Systems, whether you talk about dry mix range of products, you talk about the renewable source of energy, and we have been implementing the latest technology in almost all the stages of manufacturing, starting from mining till packing. And we have been having so many awareness program as well as so many seminars on blended cement. In fact, blended cement, concrete with various types of materials, various kinds of admixtures. We have been doing a lot of trials at our Ramco Research Development Center. And as all of you know, as far as technology and measures for energy efficiency, as well as initiatives for testing of raw materials as well as cement is concerned, we have been able to introduce the latest equipment, because one of the most important thing is that it is not only in manufacturing but also in testing we need to have the latest equipment, because until as the testing is not proper, you will not be able to understand or you will not be able to develop the things. And apart from this, we have a powerful ERP to integrate data at all levels of operation, because that is very important. And this is what we have been doing. Rather than promoting a particular type of cement, we try to understand the concrete requirements, and then based on the requirement of concrete and the type of project, whether it's a ready-mix plant, whether it is a infrastructure project or individual house builders, we have these different types of cement that are there. We have the ordinary Portland cement, 43, 53 grade, 43 grade infra. Now this infra cement is used for places where you need a higher slump retention. Then we have the cement for precast application, the Ramco Superfast. Then we have the PPC cement, out of which Ramco Supercrete, as all of you know, is a cement which is meant for concreting. It's having a high rate of gain of strength with low heat of hydration and low lime leaching. And then we have the Portland slag cement, Ramco Super Steel, Ramco Super Samudra. And then we have the sulfate resisting Portland cement. So these are the types of cements that Ramco Cement is manufacturing. And apart from that, we have the dry mix range of products which are used for fixing of tiles, fixing of blocks. The Superfine is there. Plastering applications, we have various products, tile grout. So this is what we have got, the Ramco Supercrete cement, which is a cement with high compressive strength, low heat of hydration, meant for high performance concrete. So this is what we have been able to get. Various construction sites they have been using. They have been getting the compressive strength, they have been getting the durability and a high workability which is required in all the sites, as all of us know. Of course, the research and development is very important in cement and concrete. As you can see, the various types of concrete that is being manufactured in the country. You take the case of self-compacting concrete or various kinds of high-performance concrete. When you talk about high-performance concrete, the thing is that we are trying to enhance one particular property of concrete. It could be any of them. It could be either early strength, it could be durability, it could be workability, it could be the ability to pump concrete to greater heights. Any of these things that if you have to achieve, you need to have an effective mix design. This is what we are lacking in most of the construction sites. What happens is, you don't have a proper quality control, especially the smaller sites where they do volumetric batching. So that needs to be taken care of. Once we are able to take care of those construction practices, I think most of the problems can be solved. Now, to give impetus to that, what we do is that we do trial at the research center and give those kind of recommendations to the construction professionals. So that is very important. And we do that kind of hand holding to sites which are not able to do that. That kind of support is there. Of course, all of us know that durability is important, but what are we going to do? How do we measure durability? But this is where you will have this RCPT test, which is meant for evaluating the durability of concrete. And you can see, depending on the amount of charge that is passed to the concrete specimen, if the amount of charge that is passed is higher, that means the concrete is not durable. If the amount of charge that is passed is lower, the concrete is very good, it is durable. So it all depends on the amount of charge that is passing. Now, similar to the amount of charge, you have the water that is penetrating. Based on the penetration of water, you have this DIN standard water permeability apparatus, wherein you can have the specimen and you can pass water through the specimen with pressure. Based on that permeability of water, you can evaluate whether the concrete is durable or not. So, if the permeability or the penetration of water is more, the concrete is not durable. So, as much as possible, we need to ensure that the permeability of water through the concrete is less than the cover to the reinforcement bar. Because once the water reaches the concrete steel reinforcement bar, as all of us know, corrosion is there. So that is where we need to look at durability from a perspective of whether it is charges, whether it is through the amount passing of charges, whether it is through passing of water penetration. We will be able to evaluate the durability of concrete. Now, this is the theme that we are having: the right product for right application, based on which you can use it for various structures. We have been getting a lot of awards. The one amongst them is the Four Leaves Award, which has been given to us for leadership in technology, energy efficiency, utilization of blending materials, and our customers. We have various institutions. We have the metro projects, whether it is a Delhi Metro, Bangalore Metro, Chennai Metro. Our brand is approved in almost all these metro projects. You take the projects in eastern part of the country, our brand is being used, whether it is a multi-storied building, whether it is the infrastructure projects, whether it is a precast applications, you will find that we have been able to make a mark. And the construction professionals, like construction organizations like Larsen & Toubro, or for that matter, ITD Cementation Company, they have been able to give us full support. And they have been using our cement in various kinds of projects and various exposure conditions. So today, we have Dr. Mallikarjun Rao, who would be talking about a very important aspect, using fly ash and GGBS, because in our country, there is a perception that blending material is only used from an environmental perspective. It is not that. Even from a qualitative perspective, also these materials can be used. It is being used from the durability perspective. So from that perspective, this topic is of very significant importance, because there are many government projects where it is surprising to see that blended cements is not being recommended or it is not being specified. Still, there are projects like that. So in this scenario, I think a topic where fly ash and GGBS geopolymer concrete will throw more light on this. So today's speaker, Dr. G. Mallikarjun Rao, he received his BTech in Civil Engineering from Acharya Nagarjuna University, Kuttu, MTech in Engineering Structures and PhD in Civil Engineering from National Institute of Technology, Warangal. He did his doctoral research in the area of strength and durability characteristic of fly ash and GGBS based geopolymer concrete, which basically concentrates on the efficiency of geopolymer concrete. The performance studies like strength, durability test, microstructure studies using SEM, XRD were conducted. Now, he published 4 research papers in various international national journals and conferences, out of which 4 research papers were published in SCI journals, that is the Australian Journal for Civil Engineering, Cement, Wapno, Beaton, etc. At present, he is working as associate professor and head of the department in Vardhaman College of Engineering, Hyderabad. His research areas include geopolymer concrete, special concrete, and strengthening of concrete structures. So, with those few words, let me again invite the speaker of the day, Dr. G. Mallikarjun Rao, who can share your presentation. The third icon is there. And I'm sure that the professionals who have logged in would have a lot of insights, because when you look at the mixed design methodology itself, there are a lot of ideas that we can generate and which can be implemented at site. And apart from that, the significance of this blending materials, because this is one of the themes which we have been speaking about in almost all our webinars. Today is the 93rd webinar, and in almost all the webinars you would be seeing that we have been able to cover number of topics relating to construction, whether it is relating to contract methodology, whether it is relating to materials. So let us listen to Dr. G. Mallikarjun Rao. Over to you, Dr. Mallikarjun Rao, for your presentation, and thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you for giving this talk. Thankful for Srinivas sir and ICI giving this opportunity, and it is on geopolymer concrete. We can call it as an no cement concrete also. I myself, Mallikarjun Rao, Workman College, I'm working as an head of the department at Workman College of Engineering. Today, my topic is on geopolymer concrete. Geopolymer is first introduced by Professor David Dovitz in 1978. This geopolymer first as an alkaline binder with the activation of these alkaline materials such as sodium hydroxide and sodium silicate or the potassium hydroxide and potassium silicate. They are going to use as a main source material for activation of these binders. And the first this geopolymer was patented by Professor David Ovitz, but all the researchers are using this name as an geopolymer. These the geopolymer results of complicated heterogeneous chemical reaction. It is completely different from this normal hydration process. Whenever we are adding this cement for water, it is going to give CH gel plus CaOH twice. But here the completely we are going to replace the cement with fly ash or GGBS and water with these alkaline activators such as sodium hydroxide, sodium silicate, and potassium hydroxide and potassium silicate. Those are going to be activated with these alkaline activator solutions, and by those activation, we are going to get the chemical process or the chemical mechanism as a polymerization process. These things I'll explain in detail. And before going into that geopolymer concrete, source materials, what we are going to consider for this geopolymer, the materials which are rich in silica and alumina can be used as an source materials. That is nothing but there are the so many different types of materials which are rich in silica and alumina. Those are nothing but fly ash, HBS, silicon, isoscars, etc. Those can be used for the production of this GPC. And coming to these alkaline activators, at the beginning, many researchers had done a lot of work from 1970s. First, this geopolymer was produced with the main activation of this metacholine as a source material. After that, means there are almost 15 different types of cements that are available. Those are nothing but means a geopolymer cement, alkali activated cement, no cement concrete. All the people are the researchers. They are thinking that we are going to replace this completely cement with the fly ash or GGBS, that we are going to call it as a geopolymer. But not like that. It had certain guidelines and certain things we have to follow before this production of geopolymer. Many foreign researchers have contributed a lot of work on this geopolymer, and one government building in Australia they are constructed by using this geopolymer. And here the activators in mainly in India they are going to use this activators as potassium hydroxide and potassium silicate as the main ingredient for the production of this geopolymer. Before going to that geopolymer, first we'll discuss about the whenever we are going to means commonly used construction materials are nowadays we are going to go with the RCC. We are going to take that is nothing but the concrete and steel. For that one, we required certain properties. Whenever you are going to produce any concrete, you required certain properties we have to maintain at the site condition in the construction point of view. First property is nothing but density. We have to maintain certain density. Already you are aware of this concrete. We have the density of 2,400 to 2,500 kg per meter cube, and compressor strength generally we are going to vary from 20 to 50 ampere. And the tensile strength coming to the concrete, it is very less compared to compressor strength. It is approximately 2 to 6 MPa, and the modulus of velocity for this concrete we are going to consider from IS 456 2000 as 5002 FCK, the theoretical modulus of velocity. And coming to the steel, we are going to consider the materials as 750. 7850 kg per meter cube, and compressor strength is 250 and tensile strength is 250 and modulus of velocity is 2 into 10.5. These are the general properties we are going to consider for the production of this particular concrete. And this is the sample example, the figures showing that how the geopolymer means mainly the source material we are going to consider as fly ash. These geopolymer generally we are not going to use for the in-situ conditions. We can go with the precast applications. Why? Because we had the certain limitations whenever we are going to produce this geopolymer. One is nothing but we are going to utilize these waste materials such as fly ash and GGBS, and there are no certain guidelines for the preparation of this geopolymer concrete also. And these, whenever you are going to replace this water with alkaline aquator solution, we had the sodium hydroxide and sodium silicate, but the sodium hydroxide is in the solid formation. We want to means make it in the liquid form. For that one, we are going to use the molarity as a for that one means whenever you are going to produce that sodium hydroxide solution, certain amount of heat will be liberated. This was the main means drawback whenever you are going to produce this one. And one more thing that whenever you are going to go for the casting, before one day we have to mix that sodium hydroxide and sodium silicate solutions, and next day we are going to go for the casting. So that the labor who are working in the site condition, it's a very difficult for them to learn that means how to produce this alkaline aquator solution, and as well as means the calculations of the sodium hydroxide is means a lot of amount will, heat will be liberated there. Once that heat liberated, it will be dangerous to the skin, and it may cause some rashes or some health issues. Will also be uh, means arises whenever we are going to produce this alkaline aquator solution. So that that is limited to only for this precast applications nowadays. And one more thing that whenever we are going to go with this preparation of geopolymer, first main source is that we are going to utilize this fly ash or GGBS or rice ash, whatever the materials that are waste materials that are coming from the industry. Fly ash already you are aware of that it is coming from the thermal industry, and we are going to use that fly ash nowadays. The code also recommends that up to 30% we can use that fly ash in the terms of replacement of cement, and nowadays all in the entire market all the cements are of PPC. But now, whenever you are going to use this material, first the main source is that for the whenever you are going to produce any cement, approximately if you go for production of 1 ton of cement, approximately 0.8 ton of the carbon dioxide will be liberated into the atmosphere, and whole 7% of this carbon dioxide emission is because of this production of the cement. So that whatever the waste materials that are there, and every year means the production of the cement and the globalization is also increasing, and the production of the cement is also increasing. And in the world, India is the second largest producer of the cement in the world. First place is China. Whenever you are going to produce this cement in this pattern, that you are mainly using this lime and siliceous material and calcareous material. Means like this, if we continue after 20 years or 50 years, there may be chance for means the natural resources may be vanished. At that extent, also we require some other alternative material for the construction aspect. For that one, we can utilize this fly ash as a waste material, which is coming from thermal industry, and GGBS is the other waste material which is we are going to take it from this steel industry. You can use this both the materials, and you can produce a certain amount of the geopolymer. But our idea is that the alkaline aquators are quite costlier, so that whatever the waste means that is coming from certain chemical industry, we can refine that waste, and we can use that one as an alkaline aquator, so that that will be the chance that means it can reduce the cost of the concrete production. So this is a process that you need not to dump any material here, and you can use that waste material as an useful material for the production of this geopolymer. so that fly ash plus alkaline activator, it is going to produce certain amount of the strength. There are certain limitations, and whenever you are going to use only the geopolymer, means this fly ash as the source material there. And first, the formation of this geopolymer, we had the aluminates plus silicates in the source material, and alkaline activator solution we are going to use, and we are going to mix this both the materials, and we are going to get the geopolymer gel. That gel mainly produces based on this silicate to alumina ratio. Whenever you are maintaining your alumina ratio as one, you are going to get the structures like this of tetrahedral shape, that is a polysilicate. And if you are going to maintain the silica to alumina ratio is 2, you are going to get this polysilicate siloxane. And if you are going to maintain the silica to alumina ratio as 3, you are going to get the polysilicate disiloxane. These are the 3 basic forms based on your.
Mallikarjuna, just can you just keep your head a little bit near the speaker, because there is a voice break that is happening.
Yes.
Yeah, now it's okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sir, now it is.
Yeah. Now it's all right.
Yes, sir. Whenever you are going to prepare this geopolymer gel, you are going to get the 3 basic forms of this geopolymer gel there. Based on your source material selection, you are going to get this silica to alumina ratio will plays a critical role for attaining the strength of this particular geopolymer. And the types of the geopolymer, first there was thermally activated natural materials like kaolin clay, and the industrial byproducts we are going to use as an fly ash or the slag. First they had started with the activation of this metacholine. Metacholine we are going to take it as a soil also, and one of the advantages is that we had the controlled chemical composition is there, and we will get whenever you are going to use this geopolymer, we are going to get the glossy finish. And disadvantages is that mainly depends upon this alkaline activator, we are going to get the less workability, and the cost is also going to be there is an increase in the cost. And the fly ash based geopolymer, we had one of the advantages that it is going to get the low cost and the good workability. The means already the fly ash particles are spherical, and they are going to improve the workability of your concrete, and we are going to get the high compressive strength. But this compressive strength will be depends upon your concentration of the sodium hydroxide solution. And one of the disadvantages that we are going to get the variable chemical composition of the fly ashes whenever you are going to means collect a different material from the thermal industry there. And based on your coal source also, the types of the fly ashes will be varied. And in Indian conditions, the 2 different types of fly ashes. One is nothing but class A, and other one is nothing but class F. If the calcium content which is less than 20%, we are going to consider as a class of fly ash. If the calcium content is greater than 20%, we are going to consider it as a class of fly ash there. But in Indian conditions, a very less amount of the class of fly ashes are available, and abundantly the class of fly ashes are available. And this geopolymer mechanism, we are going to consider this fly ash and alkaline activators of sodium hydroxide and sodium silicate. And after that, you are going to maintain certain temperature of 60 to 80 degrees centigrade for 12 hours, and you are going to store that particular amount of this means whatever the cubes or the cylinders or the whatever the specimens you had casted, you have to store it at the open air atmosphere, and you are going to get certain amount of the strength there. That mechanism I will explain you in detail, and this is the amount of cement production that it releases a lot of carbon dioxide. And here one more thing that here every year this is given by the Green Rating Project in 2009, that every year there is an increase in the production of this cement, and there is a lot of million tons of carbon dioxide is liberating into the atmosphere. And this is the survey we have taken. And there is an one more thing that excessive sand mining is also there in our country. so that nowadays we are going to use this stone dust as an fine aggregate material also. And coming to this chemical composition of this fly ashes, we have the different types of coals that are available. One is bituminous coal, subbituminous coal, and lignite coal. Based on your calcium content, your means based on this type of coal, you are going to get the ashes there, and we are going to call it as an bottom ash or the fly ash, pulverized ash. There are different types of based on the particle size collection, but fly ashes are going to be varied. And these are the NaOH flakes and the sodium silicate solution gel. And this is the schematic that we are going to differentiate this Portland cement and this geopolymer. Here, the calcium plus silica will place an important role. Coming to this geopolymer, we have the alumina, silica, and calcium oxide. And coming to this, we have the clinker phase. But here, coming to we had both the hydration process as well as silicon, oxygen, aluminum process. And here we had alumina 3D frame structure as calcium silicate hydrate is also going to be formed whenever we are going to go with this polymerization process. And here we have sodium silicate. What are the means how we are going to select this sodium silicate solution? The sodium silicate, we have the main content of this sodium content up to 7.5 to 8% there, and silica it is going to vary from 25 to 8, and remaining is the water content. But these we are going to get directly from the market. But the main important thing is that there is no restriction for the quality checking or means there is no means how much content it should be there. There is a lot of research is going on that in order to replace this sodium hydroxide and sodium silicate with a single activator solution. And why? Because the cost wise it is going to take the more amount of the cost whenever you are going to produce or you are going to take this sodium hydroxide and sodium silicate solution. And this is the sodium hydroxide. We can going to take it in the pellets form or flakes or granules, and we can call it as an caustic soda also. These pellets we are going to add for 8 molar solution. We are going to construct 3 grams, and we are going to prepare 1 liter solution. Means 320. For that one, we are going to prepare 1 liter solution, and the sodium silicate to sodium hydroxide ratio also we are going to vary from 1.5 to 3. Based on the many researchers have concluded that sodium silicate to sodium hydroxide ratio we are going to get the maximum strength at ratio of 2.5. This introduction part, here we have the 3 different types of cementitious materials that are available. That is a calcium, silica, alumina systems. Whenever you are going to activate any material, the total entire system is divided into 3 different forms. That is a moderately calcium rich cement, low calcium cements, and hybrid cements. Here, whenever you are going to consider these low calcium cements or the hybrid cement or the high calcium cements, the activation process will be varied. One is that if you are going to take the high calcium, that is nothing but Portland cement or GGBS, like that we are going to means there the main source of the main reaction it is going to form is nothing but the calcium aluminum silicate hydride gel along with the this CHA gel. Whenever you are going to take the more amount of this calcium source material for the activation, there the concentration of this sodium hydroxide can be reduced. And if you are going to go with the moderately very low, means nothing but low calcium materials as the activation process, here to take the metacolin or the class F type of fly ashes, there the temperature you have to maintain, you have to go with the high alkaline media, and the curing temperature you have to maintain from 60 to 200 degrees centigrade. And there is a formation of this inorganic alkaline sodium hydroxide aluminum silicate hydride gel. And here to this procedure 3, it will be divided into 3 divided into 2 different groups. One is nothing but group A and other one is nothing but group B. Here one is nothing but cement plus slag and second one is nothing but cement plus fly ash. and cement plus slag plus fly ash. Like that, the researchers had taken means different types of the combinations for the preparation of this geopolymer concrete. But now my means whatever the research I had carried out, um, I had taken Group B category, that is nothing but the blast furnace slag plus fly ash. There they may form the combination of this calcium alumina silicate hydride gel and as well as a sodium alumina silicate hydride gel for the formation of this geopolymer there. And the geopolymer systems will be divided into means if you want to produce this geopolymer, you are going to consider from medium to high alkaline solution for the preparation of this geopolymer. And the hydration process, that is silica plus calcium, we are going to get the CHA gel, and the main product is nothing but the zeolite. And we are going to get the silica plus alumina systems as a main ingredients for the production means as a main ingredients in the alkaline systems. And the constituents of geopolymer, we have the source materials like fly ash, GGBS, rises cash, silica foam, and the alkaline activators I already discussed that about the sodium hydroxide and sodium silicate. Coming to this polymerization process, we had different steps will be there. First one is nothing but the dissolution of the solid reactants which was present in that fly ash and GGBS or metacolin, whatever the source material you are going to consider. Whenever you are going to add these alkaline activators, first the dissolution will be happen. After that, there will be the diffusion of these solid reactants, and next after diffusing, there will be the bond formation of alkaline. This is the means a ring-like type of structure that is going to be formed. And here this alumina is the biggest one, and after 2 to 5 hours, the first bond formation will be this alumina bond formation. After that, it will be replaced with the silica, and silica is nothing but the strongest bond which is going to be formed in the polymerization process. After that, we are going to get the tetrahedron shapes like this. This is the bond formation. In order to get the more amount of the strength, or we are going to get the polycondensation, means we are going to maintain certain temperature for hardening of that particular gel. Once the hardening was generated, automatically the strength will be contributed to the geopolymer specimens there. This is a small introduction, and you are going to get the all these things from the literature point of view. But here, whenever you are going to go with the workability and the strength development, two important factors are the properties. One is nothing but we are going to cast that specimens at the in situ condition, and one more thing that there is a limitation that we have to give certain amount of the heat in order to get the strength if you go for with the fly ash based geopolymers. But my research mainly focused on this mixed design methodology, and as well as we produced a concrete from 20 to 60 MPa. We had replaced 100% cement with fly ash and GGBS with different combinations, and water with this alkaline activator solution of sodium hydroxide and sodium silicate, and we had maintained the concentration of the sodium hydroxide as an 8 molar, so that before research they had done a lot of work on this fly ash based geopolymer. The fly ash based, whenever you are going to go with this fly ash, there is a restriction that we have to go for the higher concentrations of sodium hydroxide solutions, and as well as we have to go with the this curing condition is also completely different. Wherever, whenever we are going to go with this conventional concrete, we are going to keep that specimens in the water for curing, but here completely different. It is entirely different process. We are going to go for 60 to 90 degrees centigrade in the temperature for 24 hours. After that, we are going to take it outside and we are going to go keep it in the room temperature till the testing date of the particular specimens there. But in order to overcome that limitation, there is no proper guidelines for that one, and we had taken different combinations of this fly ash and GGBS, and we had developed one mixed design methodology for the geopolymer, and we had collected this fly ash material from NTPC Ramagundam, and ground granulated blast furnace slag from Tosali Cement Biovaram in Vizag. And this is a chemical composition of this fly ash and GGBS, and the calcium content which is present in the GGBS is approximately 32.6%. And here, if you see the cement XRD analysis we had conducted in our laboratory, the cement particles are of tetrahedron shape. And coming to this, we had the different source materials like halite, belite, and we had identified this with cement redox analysis. And same we have conducted for this fly ash and GGBS. Here the fly ash will show you that completely in the spherical shape, and here GGBS is in the angular shape. We had done this experiment to see that how the particles are shape will be there, and this is the XRD analysis we have done for our fly ashes. Quartz we are going to consider as silica, and mullite as Al2O3, and calcite as CaO. And here, if you observe that the peaks 2 theta angle, we are going to identify that what the type of the mineral that is going to be present in that particular source material there. And automatically we know that these
I think there is some voice problem. There is a mute. Has it been muted, Suraj?
Sir, it's bandwidth issue.
Okay, okay. So in case of bandwidth issue, I think
He should be back.
the
We'll wait for a couple of minutes.
okay, the speaker, I think there is some problem with the bandwidth. He would join us anytime. And it's a very interesting topic, when this is geopolymer concrete is in the research stage. And I do not know many of the places in our country whether they have been using it the practical scale, but of course, at the research level, I think geopolymer concrete is being used. So in that aspect, it is very important to study the properties of fly ash and slag. That is where the XRD analysis for fly ash as well as slag plays a very vital role, because until unless we don't understand the properties of this constituent material, we may not be able to make a good geopolymer concrete. Because at the end of the day, when you are going to replace cement with some other material, one needs to be very careful. And more importantly is the solution of potassium hydroxide or silicate or sodium hydroxide silicate, that what we call the activators, which needs to be paid attention to. So geopolymer concrete as a concept has been used in many places, but on a commercial basis or at the site level, it is not being used to that scale. So more importantly, what we must take into account is the understanding of the properties of material, and then going in for a mixed design. That is very important, because until unless that is not being done, then the basic idea of using these materials in geopolymer concrete is lost. Yeah, now that you have come back, Dr. G. Malika, now is okay? Your bandwidth is all right now?
yes sir, yes sir.
Yeah. Please continue. Please continue.
Yes sir. 1 minute, sir.
Sure, sir.
Take your time.
Sir,
Yeah, we are able to hear you.
sir, slides.
Right, you are not able to change, is it? Why don't you click on the screen? Just click on the screen once and then go to the slide where you had stopped. Actually. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Sir, have you are you seeing the slides, sir?
Yeah, we are seeing the slides, sir. Currently, we are seeing parameters for research work.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And the ingredients considered as sodium hydroxide, sodium citrate, and here means for the different concentrations of this sodium hydroxide, we are considered 8 molar, 12 molar, and 16 molar. And the percentage of this proportion of the fly ash and GGBS we are varied in this manner from 100 to 100, and alkaline to binder ratios we are varied for 0.45 there. And materials already considered, and the fine aggregate I have considered as a local reverse that is available. And alkaline activator we are going to means we are prepared prior 24 hours. After that, we are maintaining the sodium silicate to sodium hydroxide of 2.5. But why we had considered this sodium hydroxide and sodium silicate? The potassium hydroxide and potassium silicate is quite costly, and the reaction is slow compared to this sodium hydroxide and sodium silicate solution. But the sodium hydroxide and sodium silicate are also quite costlier. So that now we are doing research on this single activator solution to activate these fly ash and GGBS materials. We have the we have maintained the sodium silicate to sodium hydroxide ratio as 2.5, and we have prepared the paste and how there is no guidelines for this one for the considering this normal consistency and setting time. So that same how we are going to go for the same pattern we had considered this study for the normal consistency and the final setting time. And here the variations already I have explained you. These are the mixed proportion for the mortars we have prepared. Why? Because we have tested that materials whether that it is going to get the strength or the activation process is continuing. What are the difficulties we are going to face whenever we are going to go in the site condition? Same as the trial and error basis, we have done a lot of work on this geopolymer motor. And here the normal consistency for 8 molar, 12 molar, and 16 molar, we have done the work. And almost we have taken the ratios from fly ash from 100 to 100. And here the fly ash after 50%, there is no much effect on the normal consistency of that particular combinations. And one more thing that we had means whenever we are going to increase this concentration of sodium hydroxide, the normal consistency values were also increased there. And this is the final setting time of this geopolymers with variation of this molarity. Whenever we are going to increase this GGBS content, automatically the setting time is going to be reduced. We had observed, and for this one, the optimal we had observed is that we can vary the ratios of these fly ash and GGBS up to 50% there. And next, we have taken this 28 days compressive strength, and this compressive strength for 8 molar concentration. This alkaline activator solution, it is going to vary from 100 to 100. Whenever we are going to increase this GGBS content, automatically the strength is going to be increased. And for the oven curing, we are going to get the more amount of the strength as 82 MPa after 28 days testing of this geopolymer specimens there. And same for the 12 molarity, it is up to 85 MPa. And coming to this 16 molarity, it is 87 MPa concentration. Whenever we are increasing this concentration of sodium hydroxide, the strength is going to be increased. Whenever we are going to increase this GGBS content, the strength is also going to be increased there. And this is about what are the main first we identified that how much amount of the alkaline content is required for the preparation of this cement paste, this fly ash and GGBS paste. After that, site condition main problem is that setting. Whenever we are going to go with the higher amount of the GGBS content, the setting problem arises, and strength wise it is going to be increased with increasing the GGBS content and the concentration of the sodium hydroxide solution also. And coming to the next main important is that we have considered this mixed proportioning of geopolymer concrete. And here the parameters of the research work, we have considered the mixes from 360, 420 and 450 kg per meter cube. Why? Because we don't have certain guidelines for the preparation of this geopolymer. So that we had taken same as a trial basis based on IS 10262 guidelines, and one is of 360 kg per meter cube.
I think again there is a problem, I think, connectivity issue.
Yes, sir. Looks like we have lost connect with the Dr. Rao.
Yes, yes.
Hello, sir.
Yeah. Now, I think you can just switch off the video and then you can talk with the.
Yeah, I switched off the video, Dr. Rao, sir.
Yes,
That-
sir.
That's to save on the bandwidth.
Yeah.
Okay, you can continue, sir. Thank you. Currently, it's parameter. Yeah, please take over. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And the type of the curing regime we had considered as outdoor curing and oven curing. And the type of the ingredient we had considered as fly ash, GGBS, and sodium hydroxide and sodium silicate solution. And the proportions of these fly ash and GGBS we had considered as 70-30, 60-40, and 50-50. Alkaline to binder ratios we had considered as 4 different types of alkaline to binder ratios. Sir, 1 minute, sir.
Yes, please. No problem.
Do you need any assistance, sir? Mallikarjun, sir? Do you need any assistance?
Sir?
Do you need any help from our end, sir?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Actually, the power was gone, sir. Here, that was a
Okay.
problem.
Okay, no issues.
Yes, sir. Next, before going to that further investigation, we had considered the sodium silicate and sodium hydroxide ratio for the compressor strength. We have considered the sodium silicate to sodium hydroxide ratio with different ratios of 1.5 to 2.5. Why? Because the researchers had identified this mixes as they said that the concentration of sodium hydroxide is maximum ratio. We are going to get the strength at 2.5, but here we are going to get the maximum strength for 7 days and 28 days. We are tested for 320, 420, and 450 kg per meter cube. We got the maximum strength at the ratio of 2.5 for 360, 420, and 450 also. And why? Because if you are going to go for the higher concentration of the sodium hydroxide, definitely the strength will be increased. But in order to get the maximum or to improvise the polymerization process, the required amount of the sodium silicate solution we have to consider for the study there. And the experimental investigation shows that the maximum strength of sodium silicate to sodium hydroxide as 2.5. And after that, we had the limitation that we have removed the specimens. We are not went for the oven curing. Why? Because we have to produce the concrete in in situ condition. For that one, we had prepared the specimens and kept left out for the outdoor curing. And these were the casting while we are same as conditions how we are going to prepare this ordinary conventional concrete. Same pattern we had prepared this geopolymer also. And this is the experimental program we had planned for this 0.4, 0.5, 0.5, and 0.6. Why we have taken this 0.45? Why? Because we had went for the numerous trials. After that, if we gone for this less amount of the alkaline to binder ratio, automatically there will be the workability problem arises. So that in order to get the water cement ratio curves same as that of this conventional concrete, we have produced some curves for this geopolymer. For that one, we have taken the alkaline to binder ratios as 0.45, 0.5, 0.55, and 0.6. And here after that, we have tested specimens for 20 to 50 for mechanical properties of flexural strength and split tensile strength. And these are the binder content we had adopted for the mixed proportion. And here the main thing that in the experimental variables, we have taken the different sections that the effect of binder content, that is the fly ash and GGBS content, and effect of this alkaline to binder ratio. And fly ash GGBS we had varied from 70-30, 60-40 and 50-50, and these were the mixes we had considered for preparing our mix proportioning there. For all the mixes we had considered these quantities, and here the workability of the concrete, whenever we are going to go for the higher amount of this alkaline to binder ratio, the more amount of the workability we had observed at 60-40 and 50-50. Here, if you observe that main thing that whenever we had increased this GGBS content, automatically the workability is going to be reduced. Those things we had observed from this experimental program. And next, these are the different combinations of the fly ash and the GGBS we had considered for 70-30 and 360 kg per meter cube, 420 and 450 kg per meter cube. Based on the trial basis, we had went for both the outdoor curing and oven curing conditions for 7 and 28 days. Here for the 7 days, we are going to get the strength maximum at 0.5. For all the mixes of this 420 and 450, we had observed the strength maximum at the alkaline to binder ratio as 0.5 there for both the oven curing and as well as the outdoor curing also. And this is for the mixes of 60% fly ash and 40% GGBS we are considered. Whenever we are going to increase the GGBS content, automatically the strength improvement was observed here. And next one is 50-50. Here 50% of fly ash and 50% of GGBS content. Here for 360 kg per meter cube, approximately produced 59 MPa strength after 28 days without any oven curing, so that we had achieved our required strength and we had produced the strength from 20 MPa to 60 MPa by using these different combinations of fly ash and GGBS. And next, this mixed proportioning of this geopolymer concrete. Here we have studied the different alkaline to binder ratios. Whenever we are going to formulate this mixed proportioning, first we had fixed that concentration of sodium hydroxide as 8 molar, and alkaline to binder ratios we had varied from 0.45, 0.5, 0.5 and 0.6. And we had tested the specimens for both 7 and 28 days. We have taken that these tests as an trial and error basis. After, for formulation of this mixed design, we had considered the different parameters that are nothing but the first we had decided we have to know the characteristic compressive strength of the concrete. After that, alkaline to binder ratio. Next, we have taken the aggregate to binder ratio effect also. Whenever we are going to increase this binder content, what is the effect of this particular amount of binder content in order to gain the strength? Whether it is getting the strength because of the calcium content present in the GGBS or because of the concentration of the sodium hydroxide. These things we have studied with the effect of the binder content. And third one is nothing but the alkaline content we had considered there. This is the step one means we had chosen the different types of parameters. After that, we had drawn the charts as water to cement ratio curves, same as that pattern. In the y-axis we have taken compressive strength, and here in the x-axis we have considered this alkaline to binder ratio for 70-30, 60-40, and here 5.18 it is going to indicate that aggregate to binder ratio. Once for a certain amount required for this 70-30, you can choose this curve that you can consider the strength here and you can select the water to binder ratio. But for 70-30, approximately we got the strength as 20 to 30 MPa. If we go for 60-40, we are arrived the strength of 40 MPa. If we are increasing that fly ash and GGBS content to 50-50, we got the strength as 50 MPa there. Like that, we had kept the aggregate to binder ratio variation, fly ash to GGBS ratio But the constant parameter is that the concentration of this sodium silicate to sodium hydroxide solution. And we have prepared the charts for both the outdoor curing and oven curing. Anyone can select the based on your workability requirement. You can select the values for production of the strength there. And this is the alkaline to binder ratio of aggregate to binder ratio effect as 4.23. And here the fly ash has 70% and GGS has 30%. And here the fly ash 60-40 and 50-50 we had considered. And aggregate to binder ratio, we had reduced the aggregate to binder ratio as 4.23. And third one, we had reduced that one for 3.85. Like that, based on your requirement, your aggregate to binder ratio, you can select your required, based on your strength requirement, you can take any water cement ratio, water to binder ratio. That is nothing but alkaline to binder ratio for the production of the strength here. And next one is we had drawn for the selection of aggregate to binder ratio for required target strength for different fly ashes and GGBS ratio mixes. Here from 360 to we have taken a mix from 360, 420 and 450. So that we have drawn chart for with the different alkaline to binder ratio. Here 70-30 it is indicating that fly ash and GGBS and binder content we are going to take as 0.45, 0.5, 0.5 and 0.6. And here the aggregate to binder ratio it is going to vary from 5.18 to 3.85 here. So that whenever whatever the binder content you require, your aggregate to binder ratio, you can select here your alkaline to binder ratio 0.45, and based on your required strength you can select the different types of mixes. So that whether these the required strength we are going to get, again we have selected two values. One is nothing but for 450 kg per meter cube we have considered 20 MPa, and for 420 kg per meter cube we have considered 60 MPa strength for trial. And after that here this is the nothing but the charts we have developed for the total geopolymer. Here the fly ash, the binder content is nothing but from 360 to 450 kg per meter cube aggregate to binder ratio based on whatever the slump values we are going to get. Means if you want to select the certain slump value from 95 to 175 and your required strength is also going to be taken here. Like this, the total entire charts we have developed for the mixed design methodology, so that whatever the required strength that may be from 20 MPa to 60 MPa, those things you can get here. If you want to go for the 60 MPa strength, you had the limitations of with less binder content or more binder content, we can get the required strength here. And this is the oven curing condition. We are going to get the more 4 MPa higher compared to that of the certain amount of outdoor curing there. Our study is that we have to eliminate the oven curing, but here we are going to get this required strength of 64 MPa for oven curing. Why the strength improvement is there? That the things we are get the conclusions is that whenever we are going to give this more amount of the heat curing, higher amount of polymerization process will be fast and the more amount of the strength is going to be generated with less amount of the less age. Almost within 7 days we are going to get 88% of the strength. And here this is the estimation of your coarse aggregate to total aggregate ratio. Here the coarse aggregate is nothing but coarse aggregate by total aggregate. Once if you know the total aggregate ratio, after total aggregate ratio, the total quantity minus coarse aggregate, you are going to get the fine aggregate content there. There the binder content we had varied from 360, 420 and 450, and coarse aggregate to total aggregate we have taken the values from 0.54 to 0.59, so that based on binder you can select the aggregate, means course aggregate to total aggregate ratio. Once if you know the course aggregate to total aggregate ratio, automatically you can get the fine aggregate content. We know the density, we know the aggregate to binder content, and we know the alkaline content, alkaline to binder ratio. Based on these things, once if you deduct that means from the density to this alkaline content, binder content, and aggregate to binder ratio, we are going to get the aggregate content there. Based on that, we are going to get the total quantities estimation. So that finally, I'll show you the one calculation that how we had done this one. And finally, we are going to get the alkaline content. That alkaline content you can get directly from alkaline to binder ratio also. Why? Because we know the binder content and we know the alkaline content also, and alkaline to binder ratio. And here for target is required 30 MPa. I had the choices of 70-30, 60-40, and 50-50. And the alkaline to binder ratio can be used for obtaining the strength. Here the alkaline to binder ratio I have chosen as 0.55 and the binder content as 370, and fly ash switch, if we are going to go with 360 kg per meter cube, we can divide that fly ash with 259 and EGBS as 111, and aggregate ratio you can get it as a 5.02. Based on your required strength, you can select the values. Here, first I had selected the total fly ash quantity, 0.55 into 370. We are going to get the alkaline content. From that alkaline content, I know sodium silicate to sodium hydroxide ratio as 2.5. From this, we are going to get the sodium hydroxide and sodium silicate. Once if you know the total aggregate to binder content, already the binder content you know as an 370, so that you are going to get the total aggregate. And from the curve what we have drawn, that course aggregate to total aggregate ratio, we will get as an value as 0.52. From that one you are going to get the course aggregate. Once if we want to get the fine aggregate, total aggregate minus aggregate, you are going to get the fine aggregate there. Like that, whatever the quantities you required based on your estimation, you can select the different quantities of mixes. For that one, the mix proportion what we had selected as 30 MPa. For that one, fly ash and GBS, we got 70-30, and I had selected one mix whether this chart will get the required strength or not. So that I again tested this for both the outdoor and woven. If I went gone for outdoor curing, if I want to get the required strength of 30 MPa, I had selected the binder content as 370, and woven, if I gone for woven curing, I'm going to get the more required strength so that I can reduce the binder content. If I gone for the woven curing with the same mixes, means 70-30, here also you can get the 70-30 there. But here if you see that there is only slight variation of the strength of 2 MPa after 28 days. But if you observe that almost the percentage of strength increment is almost 75% of the strength you are going to get at the age of the 7 days due to the polymerization process there. And this is the other mix I had selected in order to get the 40 MPa strength. I got almost 44.89 at the at the age of 28 days. Next I went for 50 MPa. I got the strength as a 57. Why? Because after developing all the charts, I had chosen my own mixes and developed the strength of 20 MPa, 30 MPa, 40 MPa, 50 MPa, and 60 MPa, the required strength. And these were some of the specimens which we prepared for the preparation of geopolymer, and we kept for only the sun curing, that we left out for the outdoor curing for the preparation of these concrete specimens. And this is the specimens we kept for the wood curing for 60 degrees centigrade for 24 hours there. And this is about the mixed design methodology of geopolymer for the preparation of this geopolymer concrete. I hope so you got some basic idea regarding that geopolymer. And I'm thankful to Srinivas sir, Ramco Cement, and Srinivas Reddy sir from ICA for giving this opportunity for presenting the fly ash and GGBS based geopolymer mixed design methodology. Means we are doing a lot of work on that one in the durability aspect, as well as we want to eliminate completely sodium hydroxide and sodium silicate. We want to come with the most economical mixes with less cost. Why? Because sodium hydroxide and sodium silicate, it is taking a lot of higher amount of the cost. Almost 5 liters of the sodium silicate is almost 1100 rupees. So that for the preparation of this, it is quite costly. And this is from my side. One limitation is that we want to use that waste material for the maximum utilization of this plantation GGBS, or you can go with red mud or metacolin. Metacolin already done. You can go with the fiber reinforced like that. But main thing that here the chemical composition of the sodium and silicate and sodium hydroxide, we don't have any limitation for this one. Why? Because all are preparing on their own in order to get this geopolymer. And here one more thing I want to explain to you is here we had the nomenclatures whenever we are going to prepare this alkali aluminum silicates. In 1965, they are going to call it as an soil cements, and 1970s we are going to take it as an inorganic polymers. Davidovich in 1978, they are taken as a geopolymer. 1980s mineral polymers. 1994 geocements. 1996 low temperature aluminum, and 1999 alkali activated cement. Like that, we have the different types of materials that are available. Based on your type of research, they are keeping the name for that particular one. But geopolymer term, without Davidovich's permission, we may not use that word. That's why I kept it as no cement concrete. And this is from my research work. Thank you, sir, for giving this opportunity.
So thank you so much, Dr. Mallikarjun Rao, for that presentation. In fact, there are some questions. Would you be able to take it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. One question is, what is the curing time, or I think curing period for geopolymer concrete?
Sir, means same as the conventional concrete, sir. We are going to take the curing time. But whenever we are going to go for the heat curing, sir, with fly ash based materials, we require heat curing. But the main idea is that we have to eliminate the heat curing. Why?
Okay.
Because if you go for heat curing, the precast applications only it will be restricted. But we have to prepare that concrete in the conventional aspect, means in the in-situ condition also. So that if you go for heat curing, you can go with 60 to 90 degrees centigrade for 24 hours. If you increase the temperature, we can reduce the time. After 1 day, you have to take the specimen outside from oven, and you can left out for outdoor till the testing of the specimens. If you go for only the sun curing or outdoor curing condition, you can directly keep the specimens after demolding after 24 hours. You can demold the specimens and we can keep in the outdoor condition.
Okay. Another question which is asked is activators added to binders or binders to activators?
Sir?
Is activators added to binders,
yes,
or
sir.
binders added to activators?
Means we are going to add activators to binders, sir. Why? Because we have to activate the fly ash and GGBS materials. In order to get that strength.
Yeah.
Why? Because if you take the fly ashes based on the particle size, you can take your concentration of the activator, sir.
Okay. I do not know what the questioner meant, because either way you are going to anyhow add the activators to the binders.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, what is the impact on strength of concrete based on temperature?
Temperature, sir, if you go with heat curing, if you take the more amount of the temperature, the polymerization process will be speed up, and you are going to get the more amount of the strength with less age. Means less time you are going to gain the more amount of the strength. Means maximum the variation of the strength from outdoor curing to own curing is almost, I had shown you the what are the experimental values, 4 to 5 MPa variation is there, sir.
Okay, is it possible to pump and handle the geopolymer concrete like normal concrete?
No, sir. Why? Because here there is a restriction with this superplasticizer also, and alkaline activator it is very difficult to produce a large quantity of that alkaline activator. Why? Because sodium hydroxide, if you want to prepare 1 liter solution only, we require 320 grams. If you go for 1 meter cube of concrete, approximately you require a large quantity of the hydroxide, and it's a very difficult part for us to pump that concrete there. The workability aspect also, it is difficult. That depends upon your binder content also.
All right. Okay. Question by Mr. Kulkarni. What are the safety precautions to be taken and what is the price per cubic meter?
Actually, sir, the cost analysis I have not yet done. I'm working on that only. And
roughly around what is it costlier than normal concrete? How much costlier it would be?
Yes, sir, it is costlier, sir. Approximately.
How much it would be costlier? 20%, 30%, roughly?
Sir, if you take the fly ash, sir, for 1 kg it costs almost 1 rupee, sir. If you take ground granite glass furnace slag, it costs about 4 rupees per kg. If you take the ordinary Portland cement, it is 7 rupees per kg. Okay, like that, based on your source material, the cost is going to be very, sir.
All right. Any safety precautions that need to be taken?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Why? Because you have to train properly the labor who are working in the in your laboratory. Why? Because here whenever preparing that sodium hydroxide, sir, it will, whenever you are adding inside the pellets, if you add for the water, automatically large amount of heat will be liberated. You have to wear mask and blouses, everything. Then only you can prepare that solutions for preparation of the concrete. And one more thing, that after a certain amount of the heat liberation, you have to cool down for the room temperature for 24 hours, sir. Before going for casting only, you have to mix the both the solutions as single solution, and you can go for the casting. Those safety, you cannot directly mix that solution at the instant, and you cannot prepare that one directly for the concrete, sir. That was the main limitation.
All right. Any different kind of chemical we are using for preparation of geopolymer concrete, is it not?
Sir?
Are we using different kind of chemical for the preparation of geopolymer concrete?
No, sir. Activators in Indian conditions only
activators
are available, sir.
Does it cause any harm to the environment is the question that is being asked by Mr. Zahir.
No, sir. Environmentally, there is no much effect, sir.
Okay. And Mr. Karthikeyan wants to know whether we can use it for retrofitting purpose or porthole repair purpose. Geopolymer.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We can use
that one. We can, sir can refer our paper of bond strength on geopolymer. We had done for old substrate and new substrate. We had done that one for self-compacting and this geopolymer.
Okay. So that was a very good presentation by you, Mr. G. Mallikarjun Rao. So yes, I think many of the questions we have taken. So the next webinar we are scheduling is on 31st of, that is day after tomorrow, 31st July at 11 a.m. And day after tomorrow, the topic is enhancement of seismic performance of civil structures, recent activities at Structural Engineering Lab at IIT Guwahati. And this would be taken by Professor Anjan Datta from IIT Guwahati. So let us meet the day after tomorrow at 11 o'clock. So tomorrow there is no webinar that is scheduled. And the day after tomorrow we will meet. And with those few words, let me thank all the professionals who have joined us. And let me also thank Dr. G. Mallikarjun Rao, as well as Indian Concrete Institute, Mr. Srinivas Rao, who was Engineer Srinivas Rao, who had taken the initiative to arrange for this talk. So any concluding remarks from your side, G. Mallikarjun Rao?
Sir, thank you, sir. Thank you for giving this opportunity. I'm thankful.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Rao. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So stay safe and wishing you all the best.
And let us meet all the professionals. Let us meet day after tomorrow at 11 o'clock. So with those few words, let me sign off from today's webinar.
Yes, sir.
The host, Mr. Suraj Kumar, who has been consistent in organizing as well as being a part of the webinar and scheduling the events so effectively that we are able to conduct a number of programs. So thank you so much. And I'm signing off from today's webinar. Thank you.